quick overview on our company. We have been solving online identity and user management problems since 2005. We're based in
Hey, George.
Shut up, George.
George, can you go on mute?
I like to hear myself talk, but not while I'm talking. I think it's gone. Thank you, George. We're 45 employees currently based out of Portland, Oregon, and we're venture funded. And we've been working in the OpenID space since 2005, wrote some of the original libraries, worked with Google, Yahoo, PayPal, and the other identity providers on the Governance Foundation, the OpenID Foundation. And we believe in making this technology consumer-friendly and helping increase adoption of both OpenID as well as OAuth. Some of our key customers, Sears, National Geographic, Kodak, so some of our customers are here today, and MTV, PayPal, City Search. And we're also integrated into some of the platforms like Name, KickApps, Echo. A lot of platforms have chosen to go with us rather than go build their own Facebook integration or Twitter integration, just because the space is complex, the technologies are very varying, the APIs are not, they're not generally standard. There's some nuances to each provider's implementation. So I want to present a consumer research survey we conducted during the holiday period in 2010 through December 6th through 23rd, and the insights we gleaned from that research. As retailers, everybody knows that understanding online buyers can be very challenging. How do you go about doing it? Our research said that 3 in 4 consumers avoided creating new user accounts online. 75% are bothered by registrations and would rather change their behavior as a result of it. About 76% have admitted to giving incomplete or incorrect information online. So how many of you here have registered with fake email addresses?
Sorry.
How many haven't?
I'm shocked.
So this shouldn't be a surprise at all. When login information is forgotten, many have chosen to leave their site rather than come back and try to reset their passwords. About 45% have admitted to doing that. Oddly enough, a lot of them considered social sign-in as a desirable alternative. And let's see what the numbers are. About 66% of them surveyed. We surveyed about 657 respondents across the United States, threw away a couple of survey results, and this was conducted by an independent research firm. About 66% said social sign-in is a viable alternative. We would use it to sign into sites. And we're going to call them fans for the rest of the presentation. And 34% said SSI would not be helpful. So single sign-on, SSI. So we're going to call them critics. So of the fan survey, they said that social sign-in is preferred over a guest account creation. Now this was pretty eye-opening. I thought most people would want to just do rapid checkout, express checkout, leave. Turns out they want to use social sign-in. And there are some incentives that they expect to use this. Social sign-in may have a positive impact on companies, and how. So looking at the characteristics of those who said they prefer to use social sign-in, the fans were more likely to return to a site that automatically recognized them. So about 55% of the fans said yes, and about 48% of the fans also said, I'm more likely to purchase at a site that automatically recognizes me. So the return experience was important to them, and that was one of the reasons why they were using social sign-on. It may increase brand image. Well, some of them said that the consumers said that brands are perceived as innovative and leave a positive impression when they offer this capability. So the cool kids are sitting over here, so we want to talk to them. And fans are valuable online buyers. Of those surveyed, they said they spent more money online and they spent more time purchasing online. So the numbers came out to be more leaning towards people using social sign-in. Last but not least is the influence that customers customers wheeled over their social graph. So a lot of customers who use social sign-on said they make purchase decisions based on what their friends purchased or others in their social graph said they purchased. How many of us have gone to sites, read reviews, and helped our friends skew some of our purchase decisions? Okay. So what does this mean? Today's consumer, or at least a significant portion of the population that is socially inclined, tends to share a lot with friends, engages in conversations with brands, may have multiple identities, and we talked about a lot of how do we map multiple identities. They may use a certain persona to do purchasing, they may use a certain persona to stay in touch with friends and family, so they use multiple identities online. So we all use LinkedIn to connect with our social, with our business graph, and we use Facebook to connect with our friends and family, and we may use Yahoo to log into sites to make purchase decisions. So everybody has at least 2 or 3 online personas. And we found in the research that a lot of them agreed to share profile data with the site. So the survey also indicated that I will use SSI if the benefits to me are targeted promotions, content personalization, or better experience. So these were 3 of the driving factors that helped, that basically drove decisions to adopt social sign-on on sites, as well as the kind of benefits that consumers were expecting if they used a social sign-on to log into the website. So we talked a lot about social sign-on, and I think we talked a little bit about profile data today that large IDPs and websites share with brands. Social data can be very powerful. It can help brands gain insights on users. You can recognize and nurture your brand advocates. So if you know who your users are, and if you know demographic information or geographic information, it can be used in targeting and personalization. It's a good tool for word-of-mouth marketing. And you can create more personalized experience and increase customer acquisition rates. So let's look a little bit deeper into what social data is. We're categorizing social data into 2 classes. Things that your users will tell you about themselves, which is the left-hand side, which we're calling profile data. It could be their name, location, age, that you can import from social networks using social sign-on, and their interests and hobbies, and their social graph, and things you glean from them, which is their activity on site. So retailers have collected a lot of this information already, and this isn't new. So what's different?
What is psychographic?
So more about the psychology and desire and purchase intent. Their intentions on the site. What do they intend to do if they, purchase if they take a certain sequence of steps? So combining the 2 sets of data can be pretty powerful to brands. This is a quick snapshot of the profile data that all the providers return today. It's a shorter snapshot. There's a lot more that some of these providers return, but something that all brands and retailers can have access to with simply by.
Did you run out of columns for Facebook?
I did. So it's a short snapshot. And as George pointed out, they do return birth date at AOL. So that's what is social. I define what social data is and what kinds of data is returned by each provider. How do you use it? And we alluded to advertising, personalization, rewarding loyal customers, identifying and rewarding your loyal customers, and improving your campaign ROI. So you could create dynamic segments to an email marketer with the data that comes back from social profiles. And it's always going to be current and pretty much refreshed at each social login. So it's not going to go stale in your database, and you have to have your users re-enter that information. And you can also use social data to grow your community by leveraging their friends and social networks. This is a quick example of a targeted ad based on social profiles. So gender female, age group between 30 and 40. Her interests are cooking, baking, and gadgets. So you can target a very specific ad for a mixer based on her social profile. This is a music site, a radio site that's not personalized. So it's all over the place. There's Britney Spears, there's Eminem, Garth Brooks, Lady Gaga, Michael Jackson, and it's very varied. Maybe there's someone who's actually got these interests, but this is non-personalized content. Imagine if you knew that this person was interested in Latin jazz and blues just by looking at their profile. You can target and personalize their content based on what they have specified in the profile. Targeted selling based on social profiles. So not only can you target based on their specific interests in their social profile, you could also use their friends' recommendations and the past purchases of friends. So here's where we need to be a bit careful. We just don't want to use past purchases of friends and automatically recommend something to someone else. We may want to let the friend know that I'm willing to share this information with the rest of my, rest of the users. Loyalty and rewards is becoming more popular. So based on your online site activity, rewarding them with badges, incentivizing users to stay on your site, produce content, write reviews, helping them unlock badges. A lot of those can be used to drive user engagement on the website. And this was the dynamic segmentation I alluded to. So if we're more than likely to update our social profiles if we move to another city. We're not going to go update every site that is out there with the latest and greatest information. So if I were to move cities, I would more than likely go to Facebook or go to one of the social networks and change my information to keep it current. I might go to LinkedIn and make sure I have the most updated city, state, and zip code. So by having the user log in with their social identity, you have the most current and most up-to-date information that can then be used to help feed dynamic segments for email marketing and other purposes. And this is a quick example of building and growing a user community using social graphs. So not only do you have access to a user, you also have access to their friends, followers, and contacts that you can help use to build a vibrant community on your websites, and also use them for recommendations and to drive more social commerce. So how do you collect social data? Social data does not have to be collected only at registration. It can also be collected at the point of activity on a website. So let's say, for instance, you have a user writing a comment on a website. At that point in time, you could say, hey user, do you want to share this to your social networking wall? Prompt the user to share it to their wall, and at that point, ask them for certain pieces of information that you want to use to quickly register them to your site. So there's multiple ways to intercept user activity and collect information, giving them a reason to share information with you. So now that you have access to all this data, how do you store it? How do you manage it? How do you access it? So it threw up a couple of criteria that is pretty useful in determining how do you want to store and access this information. So social data is very varied. LinkedIn has a large repository of information about a user and their professional interests. Facebook has a large repository of information about their social interests. Twitter's got followers. Google's got other information like verified email addresses. So how do you define your database? How do you create this data structure and store this information? So social data has become very flexible, and so the database needs to be very flexible and accommodate various data types. It needs to be able to expand as all these providers add additional data sources so you can leverage them. It needs to be accessible from multiple platforms so it's useful. So if you're using a content management system to power content personalization on your site, it needs to be able to have access to this repository of information so you can personalize. If you use a CRM, CRMs need access to this data. So just by collecting it is not enough. You need to make it accessible to all your systems so you can leverage the data properly. And of course, you want to use it in your e-commerce systems and shopping cart checkouts as well. You need user interface screens and APIs for gathering the data. So not only does it have to be a registration form, it can also be an activity-driven data collection on your site. You not only want social data, but you want a single view of all your users, whether they are your traditional and legacy users, the ones who are the critics and said they would never use a social login, and your fans who said they would use social login. So you want a unified view, so it needs to accommodate that. And everybody wants systems to be up and running quickly. So that's a given. So I'm going to put a plugin for January. We offer a user management platform that pretty much covers everything that I just alluded to. So January Engage is our flagship product that does social login, sign in, helps you invite friends to your website, and does all the user engagement. It covers the user engagement portion. Capture is your social profile storage, both for social data as well as traditional data. And we make it easy for you to automatically store rich user profile information that comes back from social networks, with user consent, of course. And January Federate helps a user move not only across your web properties, but also you can help your users who have authenticated on your site to move between your site and your partner site, taking with them the rich profile information that they have given you. And identity service is designed for brands that also have data on users. So it's not just social networks that have rich user profile information. Your user identity and access management systems also may contain information that you may want to share with your partner sites. So why not unlock it? Why not help your users who authenticate via traditional means take that profile data with them and move from one site to another, sharing that information across your ecosystem and with your partner sites. So that's that product, and it's drawn at the same level as Facebook and Yahoo and MySpace to indicate that you too can become an identity provider for your ecosystem and your partner sites. And we believe in assembling the best of breed services. Obviously, one company cannot do all the services and be the best in breed. We focus on user management solutions, and there are additional user engagement solutions that we work with best of breed partners to bring to market, so there's a rapid time to market. And one of our core precepts is we don't believe in vendor lock-in, so you should be able to swap in and swap out the best of breed components, and there should be a rapid innovation at each layer. So we want to make sure that whatever we bring to market is the best in breed, and whatever our partners bring to market is best in breed. And we're aligned in terms of philosophy as well on who the data, where the data ownership resides, and so on. So this is a quick example of a plugin we're releasing for the Magento shopping cart later this week, and I wanted to just show it out there. So you log into a Magento-based shopping cart with your social identity. This automatically helps you register and create an account on Magento, and you can use it to automatically check out. And you can also prompt the user to share to their social network wall either a product page that they like or the item that they have purchased, and you can basically allow them to share any content from your shopping cart or your website. And I also wanted to talk a little bit about 360-degree view on users and mapping. I'm just going to talk in the context of Magento. But what Janrain provides as an aggregator is allows brands to map multiple user social identities and user identities with a primary identity of the user. So a user might have chosen to register on your site with an email address and password, but they may have later accessed your site with, say, a Twitter account or possibly a Yahoo account. How do you know that it is the same user? So as aggregators, we help websites map multiple credentials. So you have not only a single view on your user, you have a 360-degree view on your user, and you can map multiple credentials to the same user. And this just shows an example of how we've implemented it for Magento. The user here has mapped both their Google and Twitter accounts to the same user persona.
So the user has to do that themselves? It's not automatic correlation?
So brands can choose to do it, but it will have to be prompted by user, because the user has to identify themselves and say, I'm indeed the owner of the Twitter account, and they do that by logging in. And the brand would basically send us the primary key and the social networking handle, and we'll store that mapping for them so they don't have to change their database. So we're doing a webinar, a quick wrap-up with the researcher. We the results I presented earlier was done by Blue Research that works extensively with Microsoft and Intel and some large brands. The researcher Paul Abel will be presenting our findings from the consumer research on 317, and I have some invitations on the table. Please feel free to pick those up, and I would love to have you guys attend. The consumer research report is available on our website, and feel free to connect with us and follow us on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and you can always shoot me an email if I can be of further assistance. Any questions?
The plugin for Magento that allows you to use your OpenID for the shopping cart,
Mhm.
is that plugin PCI certified? How do you overcome the resistance around social identity for the purpose of making payments on the network?
So since we're the aggregators in this case and we're just passing the data through, we're actually not storing any information on the user. So that's helping us not, basically do a dance around the PCI compliance.
So you're really relying on each of the identity providers to either be PCI compliant or somebody has to educate the consumer to take the risk.
Right. And also cardholder information is not actually passed through.
Right.
So only when you store cardholder data do you have to worry about A, B, C, and D of PCI compliance.
So if you're mapping users, how can you not be storing user information?
So the mapping users is about the only thing that Genuine Engage stores. It's not exactly user information, it's the handles that we store. So we store this is a Twitter handle, this is the primary key, this is a Facebook handle, this is a Google handle. So no profile data is actually stored.
What would you say is a typical project duration for somebody who decides to use your product to implement OpenID?
The Genuine Engage implementation can be stood up on a site pretty much within a day. It shouldn't take you any longer than that. It's pretty straightforward, RESTful APIs, and we have out-of-the-box widgets to integrate social login and social sharing. If you're talking about complex registration flows, that just varies. It just depends on your internal workflow.
So Genuine is working as an aggregator, and so suppose as a consumer can use them different IDs to log in, and you're creating a mapping between different identities. The identifier that you are passing to the RG, what is that? Are you generating a different identifier, or you're passing on the same identifier?
So we're passing all the provider identifiers, and we're also passing the access credentials in case of the OAuth providers. So if customers want to make direct calls into a Facebook Graph API or Twitter APIs, they can do that too. So there's no obfuscation. We actually normalize everything into portable contacts and pass it a JSON or an XML structure.
So once signed in, is it really like a single sign-in between different sites?
Once signed in, the session management is left up to the website, and they can determine whether the session lasts on one site or across multiple sites. But the February product, if you have multiple sites that are not on the same domain, will help you do a single sign-on across the board. So you authenticate once and you move across all sites.
And so if that is the case, so for example, if I sign in with the Google ID, does that mean that if I go to the Google site, I will see myself signed in, and I come back to my site, I will still signed in?
Yeah, so we will piggyback off any valid sessions that are available, but we also have the application permission. So we run every brand and every website under their own provider app instances. So the user, even though the session is valid, access to the data is gated by the fact that the user has to give that particular website permissions to access their data. So session management won't work if there is a valid session in the background.
Yeah, I'm just curious that how is it viewed by competitors in a particular industry? So for example, if I'm looking at Coke products and I see a Pepsi ad pop up, I mean, isn't that a conflict of interest for the product owner?
Based on, you're talking about advertisements that are.
So for example, if there's I could have single sign-on with, say, I sign in with Google, and for example, Pepsi and Coke, both of them have the same mode of sign-on. those are like Pepsi ads while I'm browsing a Coke site because both use the same sign-on engine.
So I think I'm going to explain this slightly differently. So when your user browses, say for instance, uses the Google OpenID hybrid implementation and goes to a Pepsi site, the user has to give permission to Pepsi to be able to access their resources. And then when they move to Coke, they have to give permission to access their resources. So there's no crosstalk between the two sites, even though there's a valid session.
That's on the consumer side.
Correct.
But from Pepsi and Coke side, it's like I would think that because if I enable this kind of signing, I would be basically going head to head with competitors. And why?
Not necessarily, because the user has not granted them permission. So the Pepsi wouldn't know that the user has granted Coke permission and vice versa. So even on the provider side, they wouldn't be able to share that information because they have specific relationships. So it's a brand to the provider relationship that is important. And we're just the go-between. So you don't own that relationship.